Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video, we'll be taking a look at challenge battles, finding out what they are, and how we can use them in our campaigns. Challenge battles are unique battles available to any warband currently embarked upon any campaign quest. You won't find these in the core book, and so they weren't introduced in that. But the first time they popped up was in the Monsters and Mercenaries and the Tome of Champions books, the Tome of Champions 2019. And then in these books, they're a little bit different. So I think the simplest version is in the Monsters and Mercenaries book. And then in the Tome of Champions 2019 version, it gave us some extra kind of elements to the idea of a challenge battle that included these shattered Dominion objectives. And that included these little pieces here, these like objective markers that you can pick up in a set. And so as it developed though, it started introducing other things. So if we look into this book, the Tome of Champions 2020, this focused on a section called Wildfighters, and I've gone into this a little bit in some other videos, and I'll be doing a video solely on Wildfighters because they're really awesome, and this is going to give us some elements that we can bring in when we want to do solo play. And then following the Tome of Champions 2020, we started to see more challenge battles in the Warcry supplement books for each of the Grand Alliances. So we've got the Harbingers of Destruction, Sentinels of Order, Bringers of Death, and the Agents of Chaos. So there's quite a lot of books here. There's 7 books that feature challenge battles, and the Tome of Champions have each got a different element in them, and as has the Monsters and Mercenaries. But I want to keep this quite simple. I just want to go over in this video what challenge battles are and how we can use them in our campaign play. And so I thought, let's focus on one of the Grand Alliance books, and I've chose Chaos because this ties in with the Beasts of Chaos, who will be the warband I'm taking into a campaign and featuring with all the different videos as part of the examples and how to play a campaign for Warcry. So for this video, we'll focus on the Agents of Chaos supplement book, and we'll go through everything you need to know about challenge battles, what they are, how to play them, and then we'll also have a look at some examples of the challenge battles included in the Agents of Chaos book, and we'll break down all the different sections, and we'll also take a look at the artifacts of power, what a treasure hoard is. This is really cool. And so we'll look at the lesser artifact tables, and we'll just have a good overview of exactly what a challenge battle is and how we can use it in Warcry. So here we go, we've got the Agents of Chaos book, and on page 104 onwards, you'll see we've got the challenge battle section, and everything in this book is going to relate to any of the factions of Chaos. So whatever your warband is from Chaos Grand Alliance, you'll be able to use the challenge battles here. And so this is going to fit in with all the original Warcry warbands and also any other warband factions from Age of Sigmar, Grand Alliance of Chaos that you have and want to play. So challenge battle, they're unique battles available to any warband currently embarked upon any campaign quest. And to play a challenge battle, you need an opponent. And I'm not going to talk about solo play here, so let's just imagine we are playing against somebody. And so you need an opponent to play a challenge battle with. And in a challenge battle, one player is known as the challenger, is attempting to overcome the challenge that has been set in the challenge battle. This player's warband is then referred to as the challenger warband. The other player is known as the adversary, and they're attempting to thwart the challenger. Rather than controlling their own warband, the adversary instead controls fighters that are referred to as adversaries. And so first you've got to decide which challenge battle you'll play, and then they're all featured in the following pages. And we'll look at these as we work through this section. And then you've got to decide which player will be the challenger and which player will be the adversary. And each challenge battle has got 4 sections. They've got the setup, they've got the special rules, they've got the battle plan, and then finally the spoils. So to kind of understand some of the terminology here, we've got to have gone through some of the narrative campaign and learn some of the rules involved in that. But basically the setup section of a challenge battle details how the players muster their warbands, and we're going to find that here. There's going to be a whole section in each one of the challenge battles with the setup and all the rules you need to know. Then the challenger and the adversaries, they're going to have different rules to follow. So as you can see here, it's going to say, for example, the challenger must muster a chaos warband, and all fighters in the warband must be chosen from the challenger's warband roster, whereas the adversary player does not need to include a leader. So there's going to be different rules like that for each of the different players. There's also some limitations when you're playing a challenge battle during your campaign, because in a challenge battle, dominated territories won't grant you any additional points to your warband, and you also can't spend any glory points on reinforcements. So you literally are going in with 1,000-point warband when you're playing any challenge battles. So a challenge battle really is all about the challenge and the player who decides to be the challenger, and they're using their warband that's embarked on the campaign, whereas the adversary's got a real fun role to play in it, because they can either choose to be a warband of fighters, or they can be like a single large monster. And so they're playing, trying to stop the challenger achieving the mission of the challenge battle, if you like. So that's really fun. And if you've got a friend who you want to play against, his job or her job is going to be to stop you achieving the mission as laid out in the challenge battle. So with that in mind, the adversaries, they're not going to get any destiny levels, they're not going to get any artifacts or command traits unless it's specifically stated otherwise. And in the aftermath sequence, the adversary doesn't get to make any injury rolls for the fighters, and they don't roll for any destiny levels for them either. And that's because it's not their warband they're playing. So these are great if you want to play a battle to kind of get some more lesser artifacts or artifacts of power for your warband, especially early on. It's really good if you can play a challenge battle. And so yeah, you've got your adversary trying to stop you. You're trying to gain some treasure hoards and lesser artifacts, and just a real fun way to play the game. You can also get to win a monster to add to your warband roster as well. So that's really fun. So there's some elements in it that are really good, and the idea of trying to stop the challenging player, I think is really fun. There's going to be some conditions you've got to meet to be able to take part in the challenge battles, and this is different for each one of them. And it says here that every challenge battle has a prerequisite and a stake, and these are all going to be featured in the setup section of each challenge battle. And so to be able to play the challenge battle, you need to have 2 dominated territories, and if you lose the challenge battle, then you lose 1 dominated territory. And this is going to change as we go through. So this one, you need 4 dominated territories to take part, but you're only going to lose 1 if you lose the challenge battle. And so you can see here 3 in 1, 3 in 1. So they're all a little bit different. So, but these main ones are like 2 and 1. So if you lose the challenge battle, and then that 1 dominated territory that's at stake, if you lose that, this represents the repercussions that the warband faces in the wake of their failure and the time they must spend recuperating those resources. If the adversaries lose, then they don't lose anything, because that's not part of their campaign, and they're just representing a monster or an opposing warband for you to be challenging in the battle. In the campaign battles, we're also going to get special rules, and there could be 1 or more of these rules, and they apply to some or all of the fighters, and they're going to be featured here in this section of each of the different campaign battles. And there's quite a few rules here, and to read through for each one. They're all going to be like different, and so you have to read these and take note of those when you're playing each of the battles. So, you know, here's the battle groups. The challenger warband must split into battle groups as normal, while the adversary player's warband is split into 2 groups, the dagger and shield. Neither battle group can have more than 1 additional fighter than the other. So those rules, again, it's showing how it's different for the challenger than it is for the adversary. Just like with any other battle, there's going to be a battle plan, and this is going to be different again for each of them, and this is going to tell us how to generate the battle plan, and it's going to be a section here, and you can also see on each one is different. And so the great thing with these newer books is they're incorporating the Catacombs board and the Catacombs terrain. So this is really cool. So you can start playing on the different boards. So you've got the Catacombs one here, and then you've got the above ground here. And this is all going to be playable with the terrain that you've got from the Catacombs set. Whereas if you use one of the older books, the Tome of Champions 2019, it's all going to be based around the terrain from the original starter set. And you see here that just like any other battle plan, we're going to get our terrain, deployment, victory and twist. And these are either going to be in the core book or the Catacombs book, and if you've got the cards, you should find some of them on the cards too. But some of these, like the ones for Catacombs, are going to be specific to Catacombs, so you're going to find those in the Catacombs book. The next section is the spoils. This is a great fun part. This is what really makes the campaigns really awesome. Each challenge battle has one or more spoils, and if the challenger warband wins the challenge battle, they receive one of the spoils of that challenge battle. And in some cases, they may receive bonus spoils for completing a special task. And again, you're going to find a section on the spoils here. Some are larger than others, and so here's an example. If the challenger wins the battle, they can choose one of the following spoils. They can either choose a treasure hoard, which we'll check out in a minute, an artifact of power, and the artifact of power in this case is the Axe of Unmaking, and this is going to have its own conditions that they can bring in. So that's really fun. But you're also going to get some where you go up against monsters. So if the challenger wins the battle, they can choose one of the following spoils. Again, they can choose the treasure hoard, or they can choose the monster, and then the monster adversary that was fighting in the battle can be added to the challenger's warband roster for the rest of their campaign. So this is a real fun way to build on that narrative and actually beat a monster in battle, tame it, and then bring it into your warband. So this is really fun, and again, building on that narrative that comes with the campaign play. Okay, so now let's take a look at Treasure Hoard, and one of the spoils of each challenge battle is the Treasure Hoard, and if the challenger picks this reward, they can make up to 3 additional search rolls on the lesser artifacts table during the aftermath sequence of the battle. So this is really cool, and in the core book, you're going to find the lesser artifacts table, and that's here, and you're going to find it on pages 68 and 69. And we've gone through this in the campaign rules section, where we had a look at it, and this is great. This has got all the lesser artifacts, and these have been updated since the core book came out, and that's all in the recent errata and the rules update, and I've done a video on that if you want to check that out, and it's changed it slightly in how you can use your lesser artifacts. So rather than it being an action, you can use them as a bonus action. So that's really great. That's really changed things and made it a lot more beneficial to actually have and use these. So I'm not going to go into detail of what the lesser artifacts are, but I think that will make another video. We could do a whole video on this. And I'm also planning to do some cards for each of the lesser artifacts. So rather than just making a note of what you've got on your roster, you could actually get the card, print it off, and then have it next to your fighter that's using it, and keep it near your roster as well. And so it's going to have like almost like Dungeons and Dragons, where you get an item card or a loot card. It's going to have a picture of the image, description of what it does, and you actually feel like you've got something. So that would be cool. Originally, I thought it might be good to make almost like objective token kind of style for each of these, and that might be something I'll do. But that'll take a long time, and I think I'll start with the cards. And this is going to be a bonus for all the Patreon members, any level, just to say thank you for joining Patreon and being part of an awesome community that we're building together there. So if you're one of the Patreon members or you want to join Patreon, you're going to get these cards for free that you can download, print, and use in your game. And so you can see what they look like. I'll do a video, I think, on lesser artifacts, and I'll include the cards that I'll be making in that video so you can see them and then decide if that's something you're interested in getting and joining the Patreon for. So that will come in a few days' time. And if that's not enough lesser artifacts for you, in the Tome of Champions 2020, on page 84 onwards, there's a whole section on lesser artifacts, and this really starts now to build on the narrative for the different Grand Alliances. So these are going to give us lesser artifacts tables for Chaos, Order, Death, and Destruction. So you're going to get 2 pages just for Chaos, 2 for the Grand Alliance of Order, and so on. So this is really cool, and this is much more specific and more tied in with the narrative of each of them. So this is really great. And so again, I'll be doing cards for all these. I'll be rolling that out over the next few weeks, and they're going to be featured in the Tome of Champions 2020. But you don't need that. You only need the core book to take advantage of those lesser artifacts. So although the treasure hoard is just this small paragraph here, I think that's what the challenge battles are all about. Getting treasure, getting those lesser artifacts, and improving your kind of warband, your fighters, their abilities, so that when you start going on to the convergence battles, you've got them all tooled up, they've got these extra abilities now, you're making them a lot tougher, and so that's what it's all about. But you do have to be aware that they can still get injured in these challenge battles, so you have to take care of that too. But that's the treasure hoard, but they're also going to get artifacts of power, and some spoils grant an artifact of power to be given to one of the fighters in the challenger warband. And an artifact of power can only be given to a fighter if no other fighters in the same warband bear the same artifact of power. And so let's have a look again here, like we saw earlier. In this section of the spoils, we're going to find out the artifact of power and exactly what it is. So there we go. If we're successful in a challenge battle, we're going to get a treasure hoard, artifacts of power, or we're going to get to use the monster in our warband roster for the rest of our campaign. So 3 awesome things, 3 awesome ways to build and strengthen your whole warband. So real fun, and I think this is what it's all about really. This is what you want to get into a challenge battle for. Right, so just as we would if we were playing a normal battle in our campaign or one of the convergence battles, there's going to be an aftermath sequence. But with a challenge battle, there's going to be a few differences. So after each challenge battle, we resolve the aftermath sequence just as we would with the core rules in the core book on pages 66 to 70. And again, I've done a video on that, so you can check that out, the whole series for playing the narrative campaign mode. But there's going to be a few amendments that we have to take into account for the challenge battles. And so the first one is that the players, they don't receive glory points for playing a challenge battle. They also, for the adversaries, they don't roll injury rolls and destiny rolls, and neither player advances on the campaign progress tracker. So here we go, here's our Warcry warband roster, and here's our campaign progress tracker. So if we take part in a challenge battle, we're not going to move along this. So these challenge battles are really just extra ways to improve your warband, get some goodies, get some monsters and things like that. So it won't affect this here, and so you're not going to get any benefit from a challenge battle for your campaign progress tracker. Once you've took part and completed a challenge battle, so say you've done the Varanite Harvest, then you can just play it again. You can play it as many times as you like, as long as you meet the prerequisite and you know you're happy with the stake. You can keep playing and playing it, and so you can really build up your treasure. You can make sure you get an artifact of power, so you can get this Axe of Unmaking, for example, and then on your next time you play it, you can get the treasure hoard. So you can play it as often as you like. But the whole thing about the challenge campaigns and the challenge battles is the narrative, and the narrative is a huge part of the game, and that's why I love it so much. But this really builds in and adds more layers to that narrative. As I progress with my Beasts of Chaos on their campaign and they start doing some of the challenge battles from this book, I'll be creating my own challenge battles, almost like one-shots, like one-shot battles, to add some narrative and to make use of different models and miniatures that I want to bring into the game. And so look out for that, because I'll do a video on how I build my own like one-shot challenge battle, and so you can see how I put it together, come up with the story and the rules and everything like that. And I'll do a separate video on that once we start getting really into the campaign and progressing quite a way through it. So that'll be a few weeks yet, and the more of those I do, I'll be putting those on the Patreon too. So if you like the sound of that, Patreon's the place to be. Okay, so now we've pretty much gone over everything we need to know about what a challenge battle is, how to play it. So let's take a look at one of the battles, and we'll go through it in a little bit of detail and just break it down. Let's do one we haven't seen yet, make it a bit more interesting. Let's maybe go with the Blades in the Darkness. So for each challenge battle, it's going to have a title, little picture, and then you're going to get this little bit of narrative description there, just to give you a flavour of what this is all about, set the scene, and get you ready to get in the battle. And so as an example, this one says, "Your legend has spread far and wide across the Bloodwind spoil. It is perhaps inevitable that there are those who would seek to bring that legend to a terminal end. Word has reached you that shadowy agents under the command of the so-called High Oracle of Cain Morathi have been dispatched to kill you. Rather than succumb to panic, however, you have decided to use this as a chance to prove your supremacy once more. Over several days, you have established and maintained a defensible position. If these Cainites wish to slay you, they will have to dare this most formidable of gauntlets. On a grim moonless night, the cloaked elven assassins slip through the darkness, cruel blades held ready. You must prevent them from claiming your head. In so doing, proving your defiance of the craven God King and further cementing your dark renown. Awesome, so there we go, just 2 paragraphs, and now we've got the scene set up in our minds. We've kind of started to build this world we're going to be battling in, so this is really cool. It doesn't take a lot to really set the scene, and now we'll fill it with our fighters and our warbands and get stuck in. So the setup here for this, the prerequisite is 2 dominated territories, and the stake is 1. And then for the warbands, this just states the rules. So here, for example, the challenger and the adversary player each muster a warband as described in the core rules with the following amendments. Number 1, the challenger must muster a chaos warband, and all fighters in the challenger's warband must be chosen from the challenger's warband roster. Number 2, all fighters in the adversary player's warband must have the K-Knight Shadowstalker's faction rune mark. And then number 3, the combined points value of the fighters in each warband could not exceed 1250. So this is cool. This is letting us have extra now. So although we can't use the points we've gained from our dominated territories or spend our glory points to get the points over 1,000, this is going to let us have and field a larger warband. So this is really great. And you can see on this one, you could actually go up to 1,500. So this is really allowing us to use loads of our fighters now. So this is really fun. So that's explained our setup, and then it'll give us our special rules. There's quite a lot here. I'm not going to read through all of this, but this would outline everything you need to know to make this kind of a special battle. It's called Hidden Killers, and so basically fighters in the adversary player's warband are not split into battle groups. In addition, when setting up on the battle, the adversary does not set up any fighters from their warband on the battlefield. Instead, they set 18 counters, 6 for each battle group, on the battlefield as if they were fighters. So that's cool. So this is bringing something completely different that we've never seen in any of the other books so far. So this is really interesting. These special rules really put a nice twist on the gameplay. And again, it's keeping it interesting. So as you're playing all these battles, going through the convergences, you know, it's little things like this that are going to break that up and make it fun to play. So these are really awesome. So that's the special rules. So you'd have to read through all that. And then you've got the battle plan, and it can be as simple as draw 3 terrain cards, and the challenger picks one of them to be in play. And if you want to, again, just set up your own terrain however you like. It doesn't really matter too much. And then deployment is going to be Defiant Stand, and it tells us the challenger will use the blue deployment points. The victory is Assassinate, where the challenger is the defender, and the twist is Dead of Night. So all these cards for the battle plan are chosen with the narrative in mind, the special rules and the setup, and it all plays into that narrative side of the game. So you can see, even though we're just talking about one page here, there's a lot of information going on, and referring back to the core book as well, bringing in some special rules and how we set up and the battle plan. So there's a lot going on here, and a lot of thoughts being put into this to build and create that narrative. But the final one we look at are the spoils. And here, if the challenger wins the battle, they can choose one of the following spoils. So again, they can have the treasure hoard. So that's 3 rolls or extra rolls on the lesser artifacts table. Or they can choose an artifact of power. And in this case, the challenger can give one fighter in the warband the following artifact of power. And this is called Ulguin Duskbauble. All that remains of your would-be assassins is this strange trinket. The air around it shimmers with a pall of shadow and half-glimpsed illusions that compound and distract. And so that's the description of the artifact of power, and the ability or the kind of value or condition you get from it. You subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic to a minimum of 1 of attack actions that target the bearer. So that's great. So that's a really cool artifact of power there to give one of your fighters, and then that's going to apply to them for as long as they're in the fight, in the battles up ahead. So this is really great, and so you can see you can get some real cool stuff from taking part in these challenge battles. So there we go, that sums up challenge battles, what they're all about. And just to recap, you're not going to find those in the core book, but you do need this to play them. So let's just get rid of the core book out of the way. You're going to find them in the Monsters of Mercenary book. You're going to find a twist on them in the Tome of Champions 2019, where we use those objective markers. And in the Tome of Champions 2020, you're going to get those wildfighters, where basically you would take 2 warbands up against the wildfighters, and the 2 warbands can be 2 separate players who are each taking part in a campaign. So again, I'm going to do a video separate on that, because there's a lot to go into for the wild fighters, who come with a kind of AI mechanic that I think we can use in solo play too. So that's really interesting. But the book we used today was The Agents of Chaos, and you'll find a very similar section, almost identical, in Harbingers of Destruction, Sentinel's Order, and Bringers of Death, and each one will be specific for the Grand Alliance you like to play. So if you've got a Grand Alliance you prefer, really all you need to do is pick up one of those books. You don't need all these books. You don't need the Tome of Champions and the Monsters and Mercenaries unless you want the specific things that are included in them. So really, on top of the core book, you could just pick up one of these and you're good to go. So I'm pretty excited to get playing these challenge battles. I can't wait. And I've got my Beasts of Chaos all primed. I'm going to be painting those now, starting today and doing some of them tomorrow too. So it won't be long until they're all painted. I've got my warband roster ready, and then we'll start on our campaign and start getting stuck into all the campaign and narrative details and all the rules we went through in the previous videos. And then we can start playing some challenge battles too. So look out for all that coming soon. I'm really excited to get going with it. And hopefully you'll join me on these Beast journey through the 8 points. It should be great fun. I'd love to hear what you think about the challenge battles, and if you've taken part in them already, maybe you've completed all 6 from one of the book, and that would be a great achievement. So join in the comments below. It'd be awesome to hear what you think. A huge thanks to everyone who's joined the Patreon community so far. It's been really awesome on the Discord channel, getting to know you. And look out for those cards that are going to come as a little bonus really soon. And that'll be to everyone for any tier. And I'll put a link in the description below to the Patreon page if you'd like to check it out. It'd be awesome to see you there. I hope you found this video helpful and gave you a good idea about what challenge battles are all about and how to play them. Thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games.